I finally had a chance to play Wayfinder's early access release, and by chance I mean I've clocked in about 80 hours into it so far and finished every single quest the game has to offer at the moment. Disclaimer, I have not been sponsored to make this review, nor have I played any of the closed beta tests beforehand, so this is going to be me talking about my first impressions with the game, my overall thoughts on its current state, and Airship Syndicate's plans for the future. For those of you who are not familiar with it, Wayfinder is a new MMO-lite developed by Airship Syndicate. You might know them as the people behind games such as Darksiders Genesis, Battle Chasers, and the recent League of Legends Ruined King game. Wayfinder itself is being published under Digital Extremes, who are most known for developing Warframe and the upcoming game that they announced, Soulframe. As I didn't get to participate in any of the closed beta tests, I was very excited to hop into the game day one, take a deep look into the systems, and stream my first impressions over on my Twitch channel, which you should totally follow by the way. And honestly, I don't know what I expected. It was pretty much an MMORPG launch with the issues amped up to 10, so let's talk about that real quick. Now, I'm no stranger to MMO launches with the big queues and server issues. However, what happened with Wayfinder was nothing short of disastrous. Within the first 20 minutes of the game launching, the servers had to be taken down immediately for emergency maintenance, which lasted for quite a few hours, during which no one was able to access the game. Day 1 was essentially unplayable to about 95% of the people trying to get in, and the next few days didn't really do much to fix the problems. The game suffered from insane server issues for pretty much its entire first week, with players being left to wait in queues as big as 20,000, getting into the game after waiting for hours, and then immediately getting disconnected and sent to the back of the queue. It's no surprise then that the game ended up receiving a lot of negative reviews on Steam from upset gamers that they couldn't access the product they paid for at all. And on top of that, a lot of them were denied refunds by Steam due to exceeding the 2 hours of playtime by simply waiting in queue to try out the game. Due to these issues and more, the community ended up labeling the game as Wayfinder, which honestly, it wasn't exactly inaccurate. Heck, even I myself ended up waiting in queue for about 15 hours trying to play during the first few days, and not being able to get in at all whatsoever. Airship Syndicate has announced that they will be providing compensation to everyone regardless of if they experience these issues or not, but in what form still remains to be seen. Remains to be seen, he said. Just as I finished editing the video, Airship Syndicate posted an update regarding the player compensation, so I'm just gonna edit this in real quick. They are going to be handing out a Wayfinder token, 1,100 rune silver, and 5 reward tower keys to anyone that was inconvenienced between the 17th and the 25th. The Wayfinder token allows you to unlock any character in the game that you want for free, and the rune silver can be used for skins or weapons in the shop, along with 5 battle pass rewards of your choice. That's about between $30 to $40 in value, so all in all, I would say it's a pretty good compensation. For those of you who have it, let me know what you spent it on, okay? So, now that we've addressed the big elephant in the room, let's start talking about the game itself. Airship Syndicate has created an absolutely gorgeous stylized world that's just bursting with charm and character. It's very reminiscent of WildStar, so if you were one of the fans of that game before it shut down, you're absolutely going to want to check this one out. Some people might see this as a con, since a lot of games as of late have been using stylized graphics, but if you're somebody that enjoys it, then Wayfinder will absolutely not disappoint you. You'll be spending a good amount of time in the game's main hub Skylight, which is one of the most beautiful areas in the entire game. You can tell that every nook and cranny was absolutely planned out with care. This is where you're going to be accepting new quests, crafting your weapons, accessories, and consumables. This is also where you're going to be going to party up with your friends, as well as start expeditions into the game's many dungeons and start hunts for bosses. At the moment, the game has 3 different main tile sets for its dungeons: the Monastery of Aurelian, the Deep and Dark Mines, and the Snow-Covered River Forest, which are then further divided into 3 areas for each tile set, giving you a grand total of 9 areas to tackle on during your adventures. Wayfinder's gameplay loop is relatively simple. If you've ever played Warframe or heck, any looter shooter or dungeon crawler, then you're immediately going to be familiar with it. You'll be diving into dungeons, killing everything that moves and collecting loot. You're then going to be using that loot to increase your power so you can take on the next dungeon. Once you run out of new dungeons to unlock, you're going to keep powering up to clear them again on higher difficulties, get even better drops, use what you get to create new weapons, or unlock new characters. There's two types of missions you can choose to play: expeditions and hunts. Expeditions are standard, procedurally generated dungeons where you're going to go in by yourself or with your friends, and basically just kill everything for loot. Hunts, on the other hand, are much more interesting. They will not have any normal enemies for you to fight. Instead, you're going to be starting the mission and immediately be greeted by a boss gate. Go through the gate, kill the boss, and you're done. The bosses start off relatively simple, with most of the mechanics just being to kill some extra enemies or dodge, but they slowly ramp up in difficulty as you progress through the game's main story. One of my personal favorites is the Dread Legion, where you're going to have to kill enemies to cause them to drop a bomb, which you will then attach to another type of enemy to kill them, which makes the boss vulnerable. After enough damage, the boss runs away, you have to run a small gauntlet to get to a different arena, and then you continue the fight. Now that we talked about what you're going to be doing during most of your play sessions, let's talk about how exactly you're going to do it. Wayfinder utilizes an action combat system with various weapon types, so if you choose to play a melee weapon, you're going to be weaving light and heavy attacks to slowly chip away at the enemy while also dodging their own telegraphed attacks. Melee weapons are then further divided into fast-paced, dual-wield style weapons such as twin daggers or a sword and a shield, and slow two-handed heavy weapons like the greatsword, the scythe, and an axe. Each weapon also has their own unique ability that will allow you to create different combos to suit your very own playstyle. For those of you who don't like melee gameplay or just prefer to attack from afar, Wayfinder also has a variety of ranged weapons to choose from in the form of shotguns, railguns, assault and sniper rifles. Each gun also features a reload system that you're going to have to learn to deal with, and some animation logs that could end up making you potentially uncomfortable. Every ranged weapon also features a unique skill to set it apart. For example, the newest weapon, Nightshade, after using its special ability and reloading your next clip, it's going to be fully automatic and allow you to pepper your enemies with a hail of bullets before reverting back to its natural state. The combat of Wayfinder is fast, responsive, and feels pretty fun to utilize and play around with. If there's any one thing I would nitpick about it, it's that there should be more unique combos for melee weapons, especially the two-handed ones, because they very much vary in their builds and sizes, and I feel like there's a lot of potential to be had there. Before embarking on an expedition, you'll want to make sure you're properly equipped for it. That's where accessories and echoes come into play. Accessories are Wayfinder's attempt at a equipment system. I say attempt because currently it feels very underdeveloped with a lot of room for improvement. The main gripe I have with it is there's no major impact to your gameplay. You have 3 accessory slots, you're gonna equip them, each accessory gives you slightly higher side stats, and that's it. Some of them do have set bonuses, but again, they just slightly boost your stats. I would like to see a change to where accessories can affect stats that we normally can't increase with the Echo system, for example, higher attack speed, movement speed, or just lower your cooldowns, let people make some crazy builds. So moving on, we have the Echo system, which is going to be the core of your power. It's got very good groundwork, but it slightly falls short in execution. To simply sum it up, it's exactly the same as Warframe's mod system. You're going to be looting echoes from enemies you defeat, and then you're going to be slotting them into your echo slots while also trying to match polarity slots to lower the overall cost to meet your capacity. Where the echo system falls short is the effects of individual echoes. The majority of them are, again, just stat boost. They don't really do anything interesting. Unlike in Warframe, you can't mod yourself to have very high attack speed, or movement speed. All you can do is either make yourself hit really hard or make yourself really hard to kill. And again, that's fine, but it doesn't make for fun builds. And that's the main point I'm trying to make here. Hopefully in the future, they do something about that, because there are boss echoes that do actually give interesting effects and are incredibly fun to make builds around. And it's my sincere hope that as the game develops, that they're going to be shifting the system towards that direction, rather than just providing some basic stat boosts. Oh, you thought we were done talking about expeditions? If that's all there was to the loop of the game, then it would get stale very quickly. That's where Imbuements come in. As you progress through the game, you'll be able to apply imbuements to your expedition and hunts. What they are is essentially mutations for the mission with various effects, ranging from randomly spawning a bomb under your feet every few seconds to spawning poisonous mushrooms all over the dungeon. Or heck, my personal favorite one, Greed, which just spawns a lot of piles of gold around the dungeons that you can loot. But for every one you loot, you receive a permanent debuff that makes you take more damage for the rest of the run. You can also place up to 2 modifiers per expedition, and here's what's really fun about this system. You can mix and match modifiers to actually create new unique ones that will make you change up your playstyle for that run. For example, you can actually cover your enemies in gold, which will give you money when you kill them, but also a stack of the debuff. You can infect them with poisonous spores that will seek you out after their death. You could infect them with spores of confusion. You can set the entire run on fire. There's definitely a lot to be done there, and it's the most exciting system the game has to offer in my opinion. It's got a very solid foundation, and I'm very excited to see how they expand on it in the future. In Wayfinder, you do not create your own character. Instead, upon entering the game, you will be prompted to choose from one of 3 already established characters to play as. Each one of them has their own story that's going to be told as the game's developed further. The game currently features 6 playable characters, with a new one planned to release every 3 months. Now this is a big make it or break it point for a lot of players, because when they're looking into an MMO, they want to create their own character so they can be immersed in their own story, which is completely understandable. Fortunately, if that's something that you are looking for, then you should probably move along, because Wayfinder will not provide you that experience. Another thing worth mentioning is that you should take your starter choice into account, because once you pick your character, you're going to be stuck as them for a while, because until you clear the first few bosses, you're not really going to be able to get the materials to unlock any other characters. And although you can't create your own character, you will be able to customize your Wayfinders with various cosmetics that will range from changing their face to individual pieces of armor, as well as the ability to dye it. Currently, there doesn't seem to be any way to unlock additional customizations apart from buying them in the game store. As you level up your Wayfinder, you're going to unlock 3 other abilities, as well as upgrade points to augment the effects of already existing abilities. Each ability has 3 upgrade ranks, so you'll want to mix and match what works for you to create your very own unique Wayfinder playstyle. Let's talk housing real quick. A lot of people were curious about this, which is why it's gonna get its own category in the review. Wayfinder does feature a simple housing system at the moment, where you get your own room, which you can customize by placing pets and furniture around. There's not much to do apart from just admiring your handiwork and relaxing in it. However, on their roadmap, Airship Syndicate have detailed plans to expand on this system in various ways, such as implementing guild housing and entire neighborhoods where you're going to be able to interact with other people. It's very ambitious to say the least, but we're just gonna have to wait and see how that's executed. Now it's time for the big one, monetization. This is probably the segment that most of you are gonna be interested in, since it is a free-to-play game, and every time a new free-to-play game is announced or released, it's always the big question that pops up. How much monetization is there going to be? Is the game going to be pay to win? And will I be restricted access from the game's features if I don't spend money? Personally, I do not think that Wayfinder is pay to win, but that's a whole different rabbit hole that we're gonna jump into sometime later, probably a discussion on stream or its own video, we'll see. The game store is pretty standard. It features cosmetics such as skins for characters, skins for weapons, furniture, emotes, and allows you to purchase characters or pre-built weapons without having to grind for them. The game also features a battle pass, which attempts to be unique by allowing you to choose your own reward path throughout the whole system. Every time you level up, you're given a key, and you get to spend that key on any reward within the map, and you're going to be moving out through that map in a series of floors. There are 5 floors, and you can access each floor as you want, you just need to get to the exit of the floor. Each battle pass features 100 rewards, 20 of which can be acquired without purchasing it. Now what's interesting about Wayfinder's battle pass is that once you buy it, you will never lose access to it. What this means is, even once the season ends, you will be able to obtain every single reward in the battle pass that you purchased at your own pace without being pressured by time constraints. I mentioned earlier that you can buy pre-built weapons and characters in the game's store. The alternative for the people who do not want to open their wallets is to farm out the materials for what they want and then craft it. The grind itself honestly isn't too bad, as you're going to receive most of what you need just by playing the game naturally. The main things you're going to have to target yourself are unique boss drops and special materials from events. So far, I've built 3 weapons myself and a character, and it's taken about 2 to 3 hours per weapon, and it took me about a day to get one of the characters, which in all honesty isn't that bad. The game also doesn't have a crafting timer, so anything you build is yours instantly provided you have the resources. There's no need to set any alarms at 2 in the morning just to make sure your crafts are done at a reasonable time. It's also worth mentioning the developers have talked about an upcoming system called Awakening, where you're going to need additional copies of characters and weapons to make your current one stronger, so there's definitely going to be a fair bit of grinding to be done in the future. Now that we've finished talking about what the game has to offer, we come to the question, is it actually worth buying into Wayfinder's early access? Honestly, it depends. I know it's probably not the answer you want to hear right now, so allow me to elaborate, okay? Even though the majority of this review was very positive, the game still has its plethora of problems. As an early access release of a game, there's a lot of bugs present, there's no sugarcoating it, and I mean a lot. Things ranging from certain quests not working as they should, to melee weapons having the wrong model, to the currently very bad optimization and very long loading screens. And heck, even the combat, which is very fun to play, has its issues, which primarily stem from the camera getting stuck in a wall, which leaves you blind for a few moments. I'm not saying any of this to discourage you from buying into the early access, but it's something that needs to be addressed. A lot of these issues will most likely be fixed for the game's free-to-play launch in about 6 months, and the game itself is going to be in a much more complete state with actually finished systems by then. However, if what you've seen of the game so far does intrigue you, and you don't mind dealing with any of the issues I listed, then the game will absolutely bring you a lot of enjoyment. In its current state, it's got quite a bit of content to offer you actually, about 20 to 30 hours to be exact, which is quite a lot for a game still in development. So I do hope this review helps you make a decision on if it's worth buying into Wayfinder's early access or not, and whether you decide to hop in or not, well, Evernorth is gonna be there, ready to welcome you anytime. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Comment below any questions you might have, and maybe even leave a follow on my Twitch channel, since that's usually where I'm active the most.